Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright, hello my friends and welcome to this one isn't quite going to be a recommendations video, but some of them I will, but we'll see. So this video is full of books that you shouldn't judge by their cover. Now, that could mean good or bad. Most of these it will be for good reason. Some of them it will just be like, do you know what it's really about type of one. But again, for the most part, they're all books that I really like. I just don't think the cover accurately represents how wonderful they are. And again, I guess now that I'm looking at my stack, there's only one of them that is like, do you know what this is about from the cover type of thing. And I don't love to do this type of thing, mainly because, especially with some like indie authors, sometimes they're just doing their best. Some authors don't have control at all. You know, it's only more recently that cover control has been a part of like contracts you do and stuff. And so I just don't like to judge things too harshly. So we're going to take this in a bit of like, we're going to go as light as possible with this. And I've also picked books that honestly, I'm 99% sure that the authors on this list don't watch my channel. This isn't like small authors or anything. There's only a few that are from true indie authors anyway. I really tried to pick on either hybrid authors or bigger authors, right? And again, pick on, I'm saying it lightly because again, all of these books are ones I want you to read despite what the cover is, again, except for the one that we'll pick on at the end. But they're all ones that I want you to read. So I'm hoping that despite the cover, you'll go get the ebook of them, or you will listen to them on audio and, you know, ignore what they look like. So that is the tact that I'm taking. So just know I'm not trashing any of these books. I'm just maybe raising my eyebrows a little bit at the cover choice, and then, you know, wishing they had one that represented the book more so that people would give it a go, because I myself am the first offender when it comes to judging a book by the cover, even though I have read thousands of books and a good amount of them I never even will like look at the cover besides, you know, when I first pick it up. And it's a difficult spot to be in because there's a big reason for cover marketing, right? There's a big reason for it. So, yeah, but anywho, we're going to get into this. And one final other caveat. None of the books that I picked today are ones that are like cartoon covers, currently reading ones, okay? Because honestly, there aren't too many with the cartoon covers that I would urge people to read anyway. So I think there's only like one that has really a mainstream cover anyway. But okay, that's enough. So we'll start with probably like the worst offender, and most of you will probably know about this one. And I dislike the cover so much that I actually had a friend make me an alternate cover, one of my friends who does bookbinding. It's one of the only times in my life I've actively asked for an AI cover on a book because I hate the original so much. And I didn't pay for this or anything, but I don't care. Okay, it's I broke my one rule for this cover. So that would be, of course, Eyes of Silver, Eyes of Gold. The cover to this book has scared many people away from it. And this is one of my, you know, top 10 historicals I've probably ever read. And it is sadly cursed with a cover like this. And I wish the author were more active because I feel like she would redo this cover these days if she was really still active. I don't see really new stuff coming from this author, but this is a Western historical romance that has this couple who are kind of forced together. They know each other, but they're just more acquaintances. And then when our heroine tries to escape from a forced marriage, her father catches up to her when she is seeking refuge at Colt's home. This is Annie and Colt. And Colt is part Native American. And when he gets caught with her, like, staying at his house for the night, so she's not sleeping in a barn, he gets brutally beaten. She gets forced into a mock marriage ceremony with him, and they expect him to die from his injuries. And through the Lord's grace and Annie's tenaciousness, she saves Colt because she feels extremely guilty, because it is true he would not have been beaten up like this if she wasn't there, though it isn't her fault that would happen. And now they're married to each other. So what her father and his goons meant to be a joke, that they would marry her off to this man and then have him be dead, so then she would have to go, like, ignorance knows no bounds sometimes, right? And these two end up making a go of it together, and there's a lot of misunderstanding, and there's a lot of like, these two are fundamentally misunderstanding the other person. This story is so beautiful, and I love it so much, and I wish more and more people would try it. And now I will show you the cover that my friend made for me. Now again, I'm not advocating for this, but this was a gift for me. I didn't buy it from her. She made it for me as a gift, and I needed this to exist. So she made this cover for me for the book, right? How beautiful is that? There's horses on the back. And then she even made a little step back for me for it. So again, I would not pay for AI covers, but this is the one and only copy that exists like this, because when you see the original, isn't this an upgrade? I mean, come on. Annie and Cord, this is them, and I love it. So anyway, you may judge me as you wish, but I hope you don't judge this book by its cover. Okay, oh, that was clever of me. All right, let's move along to another historical author that I think is a big sinner of this, and it bothers me because some of the books she has covers for are just beautiful, some of my favorites. But she not only has a series that had these covers, but she then started redesigning her previous covers so she had cohesion among the brand, or among her brand, and she made them all look this bad. And that, of course, also not a surprise, would be the Bellamy Sisters by Minerva Spencer, aka SM La Violette. And she came out with this one, and the only reason I read this is because I already love her books, and this one isn't too horrible. Like, this one's not the worst offender. I like the butterflies. It's all right. But then we had this one, and then we had this one, and then we have this one, and now the next one is going to look like this. We didn't need to do this. We didn't need to do this, especially because, as I said, she has another series that has very beautiful covers. And I mean, she changes her covers all the time. She's an indie author. She's trying to keep the books moving. I get it. But the amount of people that I have tried to push into reading these that just don't want to. And like, I get it, because the cover is a hard sell. I was able to trick/convince Jessin into reading them, and she loves the series, you know, so please just give it a try. There are audiobooks for all of those. It's a series with 5 sisters and 1 brother, and they end up finding romances despite their parents being absolute idiots. So there's that. Love that series so much. The next one actually comes out in October, and I can't wait. Okay, next I have one, and this is one of the ones, like I said, I try not to pick too many, like, I don't know, like I said, I tried to not pick too many indie authors. Minerva Spencer is actually hybrid, so, and also, I don't think there's a chance she watches my videos, and I don't want her to feel bad. That's not what this is about. It's about not judging the book, and we're not judging the authors for it. But another book that I wish these would get an upgrade. I really am praying for it someday, that she will, or that BookBox will do them. And that is the Morelli series. Okay, now this isn't horrible. This cover isn't the worst I've ever seen. But the Morelli series is one of my favorite mafia series of all time. I think it's so great. And this whole, like, look for Mia and the, you know, this cover that like so many mafia books have, because this is, I can get this photo, this is a stock photo that's in like Canva, and I just don't feel like it represents this story very well. I don't mind the skyline part of it here. I just don't feel like this conveys what we want. Now, just like anything else, mafia covers definitely have a vibe that they stick to, but this whole series has some like interesting choices for the covers. I didn't grab them all, but this one, like, I just don't love how these ones look. And for this being like my favorite mafia series, I wish it had some covers that did fit along the lines of what people read out. Like, I don't care if it has a man chest or it has a tattooed guy with tattooed hand looking, like, I would like that more. So just not a huge fan of this. Okay, then this one might surprise people, but because of my great love for this series, I feel like this cover just sets a precedent that I don't feel that the book itself conveys, and that's actually going to be Outlander. So the cover with the seals, this is the crown and the thistle. I'm just not a huge fan of this, though it be one of the most iconic covers of all time, like legitimately. It's not my favorite. The original cover of it, not too bad. To me, fits the vibe more. I understand why we didn't keep that, because that one's very historical romance centric, and even Diana herself very much doesn't feel like this fits in historical romance. It's not historical romance, but it is in some ways. It's a weird mix. Y'all know, we won't get into that today. But I just feel that when people see this in the fiction section, this doesn't jump out as has one of the greatest love stories of all time within its pages, okay? It's just not giving that. So, yeah. See, I can make fun of my darlings. We absolutely will. This is a crown and a thistle. Like, what do you think this is about? Doesn't speak to epic time travel and love, you know. And like I said, the original one, which I have a 4th edition, is the close I've ever gotten to a 1st edition. Someday the Lord will bless me and I'll get a 1st edition of Outlander. I don't know, I might have to sell a kidney to get it, and my kidneys aren't the greatest, so probably not. That one to me gets a little bit closer because it has like the clock to show like time, and it has Jamie and Claire and a horse, and to me that vibe is a little bit closer to what it feels, even if that is cheesy, like old school. It just doesn't speak to me quite the same way. Okay, now I have another one, which I actually I do have the original covers of the series. I actually love. They hold a very dear spot to me. I also have recovered books that I've read. You know, I have recovers for the original series because the Dusty book, is that who did it? Dusty Bookshelf, they did gorgeous ones. But what I do not like, and I do not like these covers on the series, was the recovers that were done to make when these were moved to the fully adult side. And like I said, I don't have all of the old covers on, or not the old covers, these covers on, it's only this one. Yeah, I don't love the weird covers for this series that begin with, like, here's the ACOTAR cover. What does this convey? You know, especially compared to the original cover, which I know speaks like YA, like I get that that says like YA maybe to people, but it still has the fantasy vibe that we want. This looks like, what is this? So I don't know, man. I don't know which cover is more likely to convince people to read. I don't know, but these ain't it, y'all. These ain't it for me. So I'm just saying, I feel like those covers don't fit, and I feel like I understand if people don't want to read those. You know, there's plenty of reasons why people might not want to read them based on a whole history of what they think about the books or whatever, but you know, that's how I feel. Okay, another one. Now this one is the one that, this is a mainstream cover. I don't think this is hideous. Like, I don't think this is awful or the worst thing I've seen. It just, for how much romance and love that I got out of this book, I feel like this cover doesn't do enough for it, right? That's where I hit with it. And that is going to be the Unsteady cover. There's actually a really cute recover that's going around. She said they'll be available soon, and it's just a slight change to this. So the slight change is that on the phone there's a picture of the couple, and so I know that's such a subtle change, but I feel like just adding that is a very nice compromise, because you still have this kind of, like, you know, monotone look of blue here, shows hockey and skates and the music, but by putting a picture of the couple on the phone, it shows more the romance to me. And this came about because the cover for the upcoming book, Unloved, which cannot wait for it, so excited about it. The cover for Unloved has like a Polaroid picture on it. And so Peyton Corinne, they had this one recovered so that it will have the couple cover here. But for me, this is just one that I don't know what vibe this fully gives. It's just, I know I didn't read this book for many, many months because I just looked at this cover and I was like, meh. Like, this is a case of, even if there had been a couple on the front and it was like cartoon couple, if it had Reese in his hockey outfit and her skating outfit, a bit like some other ones out there, I might have picked it up sooner. I don't know, who's to say? We read the book. Books come to us when they're supposed to, you know. But this one, I think, for how romantic this is and how much I love it, I just think it's missing that little piece that I want. And we're being a little bit harsh with this. We're you know, I don't want other people to judge it by this too. This is one of my favorite books this year. It's going to be my top ones. And I just wish it had a bit more romantic flair. Again, maybe there'll be a special edition sometime, or I don't know that a book box has done Unsteady at all, but that could be really beautiful. Okay, now we have one that, this one fits on a bit of the cheeky side where I want you to read it despite what you see on the cover. Though, this cover I don't think is bad. I love these covers. I do. But I think other people judge the book by the cover. Okay, so that's where I'm going with this one, right? Because I think the cover scares people. And this is one of my favorite, like, fated mate romances of all time. I know I say that a lot, of all time, but it's true, okay? When I make a list of like book boyfriends and things like he's always on it, and I just love this trilogy so much. And so this cover that I really want people not to judge, like, don't judge this book by this cover, just give it a try. Even if you think you don't want an alien spider, okay? See, I know, not what you were maybe expecting, but I read this book despite the cover for a joke. I've said this multiple times. This book had kind of just come out. I had read a couple books by Tiffany and Roberts before, and I had read those books as jokes too. I know I'm not the nicest person ever. It's true though. When you're looking for content to make videos, one of the big things used to be like reading ridiculously named books. Like, people still do that sometimes, right? And it can be fun. And so I had read, you know, I was trying to do one like that, and I had read The Ice Planets, and I had read, one of theirs was the Kraken books. Were they Kraken, or are they? Can't remember. I think it's the Kraken ones. That's a series I plan to go back to, by the way, because I just trust Rob and Tiffany so much now. Like, I've read a good portion of their backlist, and they really impressed me with how romantic their monster books are. Like, there's just something about it. And so, again, I read this book despite the cover. I read this one and Viper because I was trying to read these ridiculous aliens, and either I'm telling you, either going to make fun of it or be like, wow, this was just spider smut. And I was shocked. Okay, this book is a very slow burn. They both think the other one is kind of gross looking, right? Like, he thinks she's kind of this like naked, weak being. How could she protect herself? And she's looking at him and is like, this is a spider, even though it's a Vrix. And he's like, I'm a Vrix, I'm not a spider, blah, blah, blah. And I just think that this is such a beautiful, slow build, and it doesn't just hop into spider smut right away. And by the time that these two get romantic, they have had to see past the outside, and they're drawn together because they are mates. And this is the one where, like, he's like, this is my heart's thread. Some of the like romantic things in here, like the way fated mates think about each other. Oh, I want Rob and Tiffany to write the next book in this world so bad. It's kept getting pushed and pushed because they're the type of authors, like, they will not push through a book if they're not feeling it. And I appreciate that so much because each story that comes out, I really feel it in here. And I feel like not a lot of authors have the luxury to do that or can do that. But yeah, I adore this story, and I really, really don't want you to judge Catan and Ivy by the cover, and I want you to give it a try, okay? So with all of these books, I have them linked down below, and you can just go ahead and buy the ebook and just put it onto your Kindle, and don't look at the cover, right? Don't look at it. There also are updated covers of these ones for the hardbacks, and someday I will have those. Have them on my wish list if you're interested. Who did I say that? I did. I don't care. I just slipped it out. If you feel like it, if you feel like it. No, they're absolutely beautiful. I love the covers they do and the designer. One thing I always forget to mention, so the designer of this specific cover, her name is Sam, and she actually lives near me. And so a few years ago, I went and met her. I should reach out to her again sometime, but I just haven't, because it's kind of like, why do you want to hang out with the person? Just be like, well, we both like spider smut. Is that a good enough reason? I don't know, but she was really wonderful. All right. Then we have one that I never see talked about. And this is one, I will say, that the author has done a new cover for it. I haven't bought it yet, but she did do a new cover for this one. So, yeah. Which, again, that's the case for some of these books. There are alternate options. But this is one that criminally didn't get enough love. I feel that it like existed too early. I think it came out before its time, and I feel like if this book was re-released now or got the push that it deserved, or she ever wrote another book in this world, because she never wrote another book in this world because it didn't get enough attention, which is, again, very sad. But this book is Hurt by Lydia Michaels. And see, again, it says Hurt, the Hurt series. This is the only book, and it does stand alone. It's not left on a cliffhanger by any means. I believe she was going to write about other like people in the world, but this is a dark romantic thriller, and the romance in this one, oh, it's so beautiful. This one is very dark, and it has to do with this man named Callan, who he's Scottish, and it's wonderful. And in the beginning of this book, we see current time, and he is a security guard for a hotel. Or no, not security guard. He's a bartender. That's right. And Emery, she works at this, he's the bar at the restaurant, and she works the hotel. And there's one night when she is leaving, and a patron of the bar actually viciously assaults her. This happens very early on. And her and Callum have had this sweet flirt back and forth. They've never really like made a move yet. They're both pretty shy. And he's the one who finds her after this assault. And she doesn't have anyone to look out for her. I believe she doesn't have any family. And so after the hospital, he ends up bringing her to his home to help take care of her because she can barely move. She has broken bones. It was a vicious attack. And what she starts to learn as she spends time with him is that this man has lived quite the life before he became a bartender at this hotel. And he actually knows viscerally what rape does and is. And through this story, we get flashbacks to who he was back in Scotland and the life he lived and how he was connected with a crime family and how he got away, and also the responsibilities he now has because of what he went through before. So this was a story that was like unraveling at like 2 different times. We see him, because him caring for her means he's having some flashbacks to like what he lived through and what he's seen and things like that. And then we also have like these 2 people who've both been traumatized, who are falling in love and are very worried about how they'll express their physical love to each other because of both of their traumas. So this was a very complex and beautiful story. And again, this cover, like, it almost says like paranormal. It says like demons, and you know, he has literally like fiery wings. And no, this is it's a dark contemporary romance with ties to organized crime, and that type of thing. So again, I believe this is the new cover. If I snagged it, this is the new cover. So you don't have to even look past this cover. You can get this one. And I would love if anyone who likes, you know, mafia romance or dark romance, or if you like Pam Godwin, if you like those kind of heavy topics and you like seeing romance as a healing thing and seeing these 2, both men and women, having went through trauma, I think it's a very powerful story to look at. And I would love to see everyone try it, and maybe if there's enough interest, Lydia will go back to it one day. Because I gotta be honest, her books that are currently coming out, they're not the ones that are catching everyone's attention anyway. I know. I've read plenty of her books, and the ones to me that were the best were her darker content. And she writes paranormal still, but not that. So maybe it would encourage her. Okay, we have the last one here that is one I seriously want you to read, and then there is a cheeky one. So this one will be difficult. You can only buy this on ebook. It is not available paperbacks anymore. Good luck finding them. I own them because I got them before all of the like used copies were gone, because I read this series many years ago. And the ebooks are not on Kindle Unlimited. So this is a bit of a buy-in, but this is a duet that I will never forget. In fact, I need to reread it soon. But the covers of these ones are very strange. So here we go. This is Asking for It and Begging for It, and their covers actually align, which is kind of cool that they do that, but they make this picture, and their sides actually align, the spines align as well to make this. But this is a rape fantasy duet. I used to talk about this all the time, actually. And this is by Lyla Pace, and this is about a woman named Vivian, who she was, we'll just say she was assaulted when she was a teenager, and that has fundamentally changed her feelings about sex. She now needs a assault fantasy to be able to get off when she's with a partner. When she's on her own, she can make it happen, but when she's together, she can't. And in the beginning of this story, she's at a Halloween party with her ex, and her ex is a very nice man, but he does not get off on rape fantasy. And the times where she's asked him to kind of push her around or fool around with her that way, he can't do it, which is totally acceptable. Now, does he kind of like go a little too far when he's drinking and maybe shame her a little bit? Yes, that's not cool. We get it. It is okay that he doesn't have the same kink. Asking a man to do that is just, it can be just as traumatizing for them as it would be for like a woman, you know, like it goes both ways. So I'm very understanding against her ex in the beginning, where for him, he's like, I can't go to that headspace and like be attacking you for you. And she's like, I get it. But again, he gets kind of drunk and he's talking about it a little too loudly, that he's like, I wish that I could be this for you. Like he's very, he wishes he could. But we can't force our kinks onto each other, right? And it just so happens that a man named Jonah overhears this. Now, Jonah is a professor, I believe, at the school where she, like, he's not her direct supervisor or anything, but the place that she's a graduate student, he's a professor there, but they're not connected at all. So I mean, the power dynamic here would have been fine if they were, but like they're at the same place, but like they're in completely different areas. So this isn't as forbidden as it could be. I mean, someone could make it inappropriate, but they're in completely different departments. She didn't even know of him before, but he happens to overhear this, and it's a bit of an awkward situation though, because Jonah, he actually is into that type of fantasy as well. And of course, it's a little awkward to explain to someone like, I like to fake rape people. Like, how are you supposed to do that? But he's very into CNC. And she doesn't even fully know that that's the thing she likes. She just knows she wants to pretend. And he's the one who actually explains it to her. And so, again, it's a very awkward situation for him to like broach the subject. But he knows that they could both do something very good for each other. Like, legit could do something pretty special together. And so they agree to try it out. And so it begins this like, I mean, they basically become like friends with benefits to start, because they're friends, but their benefits are a bit violent and all consensual, but a bit violent. So this, you know, throughout the story, we find out what makes a man like the fantasy. And I think it's something that not a lot of indie books go into. Some of them do, of course they do, especially ones that are full on like BDSM stories. Like, we'll talk about the impact of that. But I feel like authors don't always go into why a man would want to do the fantasy. I think a lot of them in stories will just assume a man would be up for whatever the woman wants. And I appreciate the way that Jonah's mindset is looked at, because he is working through something. He knows he's fucked up. He has trauma. That's why he wants to be the aggressor. And for him, his reasons for wanting to be the aggressor are just as powerful as Vivian wanting to experience it. And the only difference is, and it's a significant difference in the eyes of others, basically, is that she must be, oh, poor her, she's working through something, and he just must be sick that he wants to fake do this to someone. And you guys know I'm someone who I love diving deep into the thought process of that, and why I think CNC and even DubCon are so important to be able to read in fantasy, or like in a fantasy situation, not in fantasy romance, but in a fantasy of a romance. And I think that Lyla Pace, it is a travesty she hasn't written more books. I do believe it's a pen name for someone else. I haven't done the deep research, but there's only this duology, a novella that fits with it, and then a couple other books by her, and that's like all she's written. And these, as I said, are out of print. You will have to get the ebook. I will put a link to them if you even can. I don't know. But I treasure those books for that fact that like they're impossible to get, and I love their story so much. Alrighty, and then I said I'd have a cheeky one, and I do, because, and mostly why it's cheeky is that I used to really, really love this book. I did, absolutely. When I read it for the first time, I think I did like a vlog about it, and I gave it 5 stars. It's only through the years now that I've read it and I've looked at it that I don't really feel the same anymore. And I think I've read this type of scenario done much better at this point. But it still holds, like I still own the book because it still holds kind of a special place for me because of that. Though I wish I could rewrite this in the way that I wanted it to be told now. But my point being, I don't think the cover speaks to what this book is at all. And I think many people have tried it and been very surprised, okay? And that's Credence by Penelope Douglas, right? If you don't know, this is a why choose, where she does choose someone in the end. So it means there's fooling around with multiple men, sometimes 2 at once throughout this series. But this girl moves in with her step uncle and step cousins. There's no blood relations at all. And she's basically like locked in a house with them through the winter. And at first she's very attracted to a certain one of them. And then, yeah, but she has sexual relations with all of them. Not all at the same time. At one point there's 2 of them at once, but it's intense. My point being, what about this cover would tell you that this has like a girl getting on with 3 different guys within the book, you know? At least I feel like with Why Choose Now, we display it a little bit more than we do. So that's my cheeky one at the end, is I'm like, how does this let you know what the book is about at all? And that at the end of the day, with all of these that I've mentioned, and with, you know, something that we get into a much deeper conversation about the cover trends and what a cover is supposed to do and false advertising with a cover, is that I want a cover to convey to me what's in it. And as a romance reader, that means I want them to be sexier. There's a discussion on Threads where this author had a whole list of her covers that have been rejected for being too sexy. And some of them were cartoon covers or illustrated covers. So the way Amazon does that, or people judge things, is just absolute ridiculousness. So there's that. But anyway, I want to wrap this video up for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, there will not be a weekly wrap up this weekend. I'm going to be away for a birthday, and then the week after I'll have a double week one. Okay, so have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you in October. Bye.